This program is brought to you in part by the Eugenie and Joseph Jones Family Foundation, a local foundation proud to support education, the arts, and culture in the greater New Orleans area.
Support for this program comes from the Gayle and Tom Benson Charitable Foundation, committed to funding educational causes.
Informed Sources is made possible in part by Susie and Pierre G. Villery.
We count on Informed Sources to continue the discussion on important local issues.
It's where our top journalists discuss stories they've covered.
Stay informed with Informed Sources.
Hello, I'm Marcia Kavanaugh. Thanks so much for joining us. In this A Weekend for Leftovers, there are many news stories still in the oven, including lessons learned from the recent city elections, as well as the cost of college coaches, and owner Gayle Benson's perspective on the future of the Saints and the Pelicans. Our Future Watch segment investigates an upgrade in the city's crime lab, and there are places in upstate Louisiana where the future is looking high-tech and more prosperous. Joining us are tonight's Informed Sources, Errol, Laborde, producer of Informed Sources, Don Ostrom, Channel 12's Future Watch reporter, Robert Collins, urban studies professor and political analyst for Fox 8 and Verité News, and Jeff Duncan, sports columnist for the Times-Picayune, the New Orleans Advocate, and also for Fox 8. And we're going to stick with Jeff because you had this really great interview with Gayle Benson, of course, who owns the Saints and the Pelicans, and you know, she's a New Orleans girl. She's from here, and she loves the city, and she just told you over and over again, she's not selling. The Saints and the Pelicans are staying here.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that she wanted to get across to the fans, because with the struggles of both teams right now, there's a lot of people, of course, upset with the ownership and management and are hoping maybe for brighter days, and they think maybe an ownership change would lead to that, and she made it pretty clear that's not going to be part of the future, at least the immediate foreseeable future, as long as she owns the team. She made a point of saying, look, she's turned 79 in January, and she's very healthy, and she plans on keeping these teams under her watch until she can't. And I think that could be a long way off. So I think she wanted to make that clear among many things in that interview, along with her support of management. Mickey Loomis, the longtime general manager, he's the longest tenured general manager in the NFL, has run the Saints a long time, very trusted by Gayle Benson and the rest of the management team. But he has become kind of the person in the crosshairs of Saints fans right now with the struggles of the team. A lot of people attributing maybe the success that they had recently, in recent years, to Sean Payton and Drew Brees, and not necessarily giving Mickey Loomis the credit, because when Brees and Payton have not been with the organization, when Mickey Loomis has been in charge, the team has struggled. So I think that's something I think she also wanted to do in that interview, was to get across her support for Mickey Loomis, because he has become something of a lightning rod.
You know, you said the team is struggling, the Saints, that is, right now. They are, indeed. How did she seem to feel about that?
Well, I think she's extremely disappointed, and she wanted people to understand that they hear their frustration. They understand and feel it. I asked her if they've been getting letters, and you know, if she understands that. She made a point of saying she's not a helicopter owner. She definitely talks to fans all the time and hears you know, their discontent. But she pointed out they've won before, they've been successful, so they have proven that they know how to get this job done. I think some fans are wondering if how much is that attributed, like I said, to the head coach and a Hall of Fame quarterback, and can they trust the organization? I think one of the biggest issues they've had, and I actually told her this off the record, is that I think the messaging from the organization has exacerbated some of the frustration from the fans. There's been this kind of promise for a better tomorrow year after year, that things are going to be better, just trust us, and it hasn't come to fruition. And I think fans feel a little gaslighted at this point. It's not just the losing, it's the losing and they feel a little duped. Harold Hill, 76 trombones. These promises are not coming to fruition, and I think at this point, that's why she felt she needed to talk. It's very rare for her to talk to the media in general, but much less during a season. And I think that speaks to just how far things have fallen on Airline Drive.
I remember during that awful season when Mike Ditka was coach, and Tom Benson ran a full-page ad in the newspaper apologizing to the fans for the season. And so I think they feel it. A lot of this, can't a lot of this be attributed to the inability to find a quarterback so far?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, I already forgot his name, the first guy they had.
Drew Brees? Or?
No, after Brees.
Jameis Winston?
Yeah. And then...
well, historically, you make a great point. I mean, historically in the NFL, when a Hall of Fame quarterback ends his tenure, is a drop-off an average of 4 wins a year. So what the Saints have struggled to try to accomplish is not uncommon. I think the frustration goes with some of the messaging that this team was going to be competitive. We were told for years, we're close, we're right there. It was excuses of injuries, and I think fans have started to lose a little trust in the management and the direction of the organization because they haven't seen it. It's actually getting worse, not better.
Yeah. Does the offensive line get better when they start believing in a quarterback? Like, is it chicken or egg?
All that.
The quarterbacks aren't getting protected, so they can't do well. But if they don't do well, who wants to protect them?
Right. No, I think a great quarterback, rising tide lifts all boats. I mean, he makes everyone around. I saw Drew Brees do that firsthand for a decade and a half. Some of the players around Drew Brees, if they were on this team, would be struggling, but they were almost stars for the Saints back then because Drew was so talented. But I think Gayle Benson feels like she wants to give Mickey Loomis a chance to fix the problem. She feels like he can be part of the solution, whereas I think some fans have thrown up their hands, feel frustrated with like a new voice in there. That management and ownership team out there is very close, very tightly knit group of people that have been together for a long time. It's very unique in the NFL. It's really run almost like a family operation. And right now, I think people are starting to question it more than they have at any time since I've covered the team.
Wasn't it Mickey Loomis who brought Drew Brees and Sean Payton together?
Correct. That's I think, why she's willing to let him try to fix this issue. But it's they've got a rookie quarterback, Tyler Shuck. You were talking about him earlier. We'll find out. I mean, he's in his 3rd, 4th start coming up. Can he be the savior of this organization? It's a lot to put on one man's shoulders.
Well, she's a businesswoman who believes in her organization, and she says she's staying here with these organizations. They're going to stay here. What is the succession plan, though?
Well, she did mention that. I mean, we've written about that before. I've reported on that. The plan is that the team will eventually be sold, has to be sold. She has no heirs that the team can be willed to, and that the teams will go into an estate and a trust, which will be executed by Dennis Lauscha, who is be the executor of the estate, and they will pick an ownership team. There'll be teams come in and put together presentations. There'll be bids made. The NFL will have to vet every ownership group. They have to pass muster just to get in the door and prove that they have the wherewithal to own an NFL team. But what she did say, which raised my eyebrows, is she said the team would go to the highest bidder. I was always under the impression, and we're going to report on this at the Times-Picayune, what is the process? Because I was under the impression the team could pick the ownership group from that vetted group. That's a big difference if it's the highest bidder. That could be a venture capital group from New York City that has no ties to New Orleans. That certainly raised a lot of concerns, I think, from some Saints fans, because I think all along people have suspected she wants to sell the team to somebody to keep the team here, but that might not be the highest bidder by any means.
Right. We'll be looking for your future reporting on it then.
Yes.
Definitely. Okay, thanks a lot, Jeff. Robert, let's go on over to you now because, we had some significant elections in certainly the city of New Orleans, and also some are nationwide too. Let's take a look at the ones in Orleans Parish. What are your reflections on the meaning of these elections?
Well, I think we saw a few different lessons in this past election season. The first thing is a city council seems to be the best place to be if you want to be a future mayor. Not only is the mayor-elect and the current mayor city council members, but if you look at our last 9 mayors that we've had since 1961, we've had a judge, a state senator, a corporate CEO, lieutenant governor, but 5 of them have come from the city council. So more than half have come from the city council. So it seems to be that's the spot you want to be if you want to be mayor. Another lesson that we learned from this cycle is that a good candidate can overcome racial polarization. So here we have a white candidate that actually got 30% of the black vote. So candidate quality matters. A good candidate can overcome racial polarization and can.
But did it help her overcoming one that she was a woman?
Yeah.
The majority of us are women, and that she Hispanic.
Yeah, I think that definitely played a part of it because she does identify as a Latina. So yeah, I think that definitely helped. She showed the key. Moreno showed the best way to become mayor is just to do a great job in the job that you already have, and just to be strategic and to be long term. And that's why she led from wire to wire. She's been known citywide for 8 years now. She's been quietly raising money for the last 4 years. So long term strategy works. We saw a further decline in the old line black political organizations. They really no longer have, we don't have really machine politics in the city of New Orleans anymore. Mm-hmm. It's, people look at the individual, they don't look at the organizations anymore. So we saw further deletion of that. We saw a rise in the influence of social media influences. This is the first election where we saw every major campaign had a stable of social media influencers that were on Instagram and that were on TikTok and that were on Facebook. And so that's, any future campaigns are going to have to take that into account. You're going to have a social media strategy. Locally, we saw negative campaigning backfired. Many would argue, and I would argue, one of the reasons why Darren Laborde lost so badly to Calvin Duncan was because he engaged in a lot of negative campaigning early, actually gave a lot of free publicity to his opponent, and then piled on more negative campaigning, and I think that backfired against him because it got a lot of sympathy vote to Calvin Duncan. And of course, in fairness to Calvin Duncan, he really was a very good candidate, had very slick TV commercials, but it kind of backfired on him. So I think those are the big lessons locally, and I'll tie it into what's happening nationally. So in national politics, we know historically the party that's out of the White House tends to do well in off-year elections. So we did see that. So the Democrats won the governor's mansions in both New Jersey and Virginia, picked up seats in the House of Delegates in both races. And of course, everybody's, or at least the national media's new media darling is Zohran Mamdani, the new mayor-elect of the city of New York. And the key that runs through, I think, both locally and nationally and everything is the issue of affordability. In all the polling, both locally and nationally, everybody says they're worried about affordability, rising prices, specifically housing affordability. And so that's why, Mayor-elect Mamdani, when he went to the White House and met with President Trump this week, basically just two guys from Queens having a discussion about New York stuff. They mentioned that they were basically together on affordability issues, and so I think you're going to see that carry into the midterms, into the congressional midterm elections. Affordability, specifically housing affordability, I predict is going to be the #1 political issue.
Yeah, because we're not too far away from those midterm elections now.
As soon as the count terms we're in 2026, we're in midterm year and everybody's running.
A lot of folks are kind of surprised at how the two got along in the Oval Office.
It doesn't surprise me. Two practical politicians from New York. People forget yes, ideologically they don't agree on anything. The mayor of New York is always going to need the president, going to need federal resources. And people forget, even though President Trump lives in New York, lives in Florida right now, all of his business interests are still in New York. So those guys need each other. And that's the bottom line.
All right. Okay, Robert, thanks a lot. Don, let's go on over to you, because the parish of Orleans now has a new crime lab. I mean, they had a crime lab that was pretty new when Katrina hit, went underwater, and then since then, what have they done? And now they have a new one.
Well, they've rebuilt, and for the first time in their history as a crime lab, the crime lab is fully accredited, and that's really big news. Before this most recent accreditation process, that came out in mid-November, they had only been accredited in firearms, drug chemistry, and crime scene investigation. Now add to that list forensic biology or serology, which is blood and semen and all those sorts of things, and friction-ridge technology, which is fingerprint technology. So a fully accredited lab has never, ever happened. They call it, Dr. Kelly, the leader of the crime lab, calls it a major milestone. Never happened in the history, and for the first time, all of their forensic disciplines meet national standards. That helps both in crime scene investigations, but those investigations lead to, if they're done properly, to convictions. So super duper important. The other thing that's really, really big news is serology. The bodily fluid technology has not happened in the NOPD crime lab since Katrina times. So we're finally, it feels like we keep getting farther enough removed from Katrina that we won't say it hasn't happened since Katrina. It still is one of those things that hadn't happened since Katrina. It's back. That will be a huge cost savings. We've been outsourcing all of those things. We're still outsourcing DNA. The DNA lab is not fully operational and will not be fully operational until 2027. It takes a long time, I'm told by Dr. Kelly, to rebuild a DNA lab. All the technologies, all the hiring, all of the making sure it actually is all accurate. But we've been shipping stuff off and outsourcing for decades. Decades now.
Where have we been shipping to? State Police, Jefferson Parish?
All over the
FBI?
place. Yes. And the delay in that is just method development, accuracy, hiring. The cost savings to the city, I'm told, are substantial. I don't have any actual numbers. There are some woes that are still being ironed out, having to hire an administrator for that DNA lab. But this is huge news for the city of New Orleans, and we can feel good about our police investigatory work. I'm having trouble with my words today. And that we're complying with both state and federal regulations, and we can be a lab that's looked to with respect, doing all the right things.
And like you noted, it should speed up things. Also, you should get the cases moving along more quickly over in criminal
instead
court.
of backlog and sending it out and waiting and maybe not being priority wherever we get sent to. It changes up the world a whole lot. This new lab is on Gravier Street near Broad, near the new.
Okay, so it's in that whole.
It's in that whole
complex.
corridor near the new Trader Joe's area.
Yeah.
And it's good jobs for people too. Local crime lab.
Absolutely. Okay, well, good for them, and we want to see that DNA part of it get going too. All right,
Yes.
and so, just going back to, I remember doing a story in the new lab pre-Katrina.
It was
So it's
beautiful
been-
too. The
yeah,
new
it was
lab
really
that they had
great.
just built right off of Calliope was gorgeous, and then
Then
floodwaters
Katrina
took it.
So it took a while, but now Orleans has a new one again.
Yes.
All right, thanks a lot, Don. Jeff, let's go on over to you because, lately we've been talking about coaches' salaries, particularly for LSU. But, what does it take to get a good coach these days?
I think we all got in the wrong profession. We should have got into college football coaching.
And then just get fired.
Right, and then retire to Tahiti or whatever. But Brian Kelly was 10 years, $100 million, and he's owed over $50 million of that after being let go a few weeks ago. The new coach is yet to be hired. I think they're waiting right now for Lane Kiffin to make up his mind at Ole Miss. He's definitely the top target for LSU among other schools. University of Florida is also pursuing Lane Kiffin, and he's going to have to make that decision this weekend probably. It's going to be a press conference on Saturday where he will reveal where he's going, but the rumored or reported offer from LSU is for 7 years, $90 million for Lane Kiffin that's on the table. So yes, we're talking major money. The college sports world is blown up. I mean, there's just so much money now involved, the TV networks. It's the second most popular sport in America behind the NFL. So there's just a lot of money right now being bandied about. I mean, LSU just recently built a $28.5 million training facility for their football program. So we're just talking about crazy money right now in college sports, and coaches are part of that.
And you explain to people when they're paying for coaches at public universities, this isn't taxpayer money that's being used. This is
Correct.
private foundations like the Tiger Athletic Foundation with private contributions.
Yeah, most of the money's coming from donors, the buyouts that are being arranged right now with Brian Kelly, and that may end up in the courts because LSU's challenging that a little bit. But that money is traditionally, historically, been funded by donors and big money supporters, and that's where college sports has gone to now, with the players now being paid. They're going to get money from the universities now. It's legal for college athletes to be compensated, but above that, there's still money going to be coming from private donors in the millions of dollars. And LSU, while they do have some deep-pocketed boosters, they do not have the same level of kind of booster support of, say, the University of Texas, some of these bigger universities they have to compete with, University of Florida, for example. So it's an arms race, and these big contracts are part of it.
That's a way of putting it. So let's get back to Brian Kelly's contract and his payout, his buyout. You know, he says he's owed $50 million. LSU says no.
That's what his contract says too.
Yeah.
So that's gonna probably come down to some kind of court battle, depending on how much LSU wants to push that. They are saying right now, the Board of Supervisors, that Scott Woodward, who originally fired Brian Kelly, did not have the legal authority to do so. I don't know how that's going to stand up. He was his direct supervisor as the athletic director at the time, but of course Scott Woodward has since been let go by LSU in a little bit of a coup by the governor. And so that, I think, is there's so much uncertainty there. I don't know how it's going to play out.
With that uncertainty, how does that impact bringing in somebody else that's one who we want to have and to pay well?
I would think that if you're in good standing somewhere, you're not going to want to get involved in that, but money talks, and LSU definitely is willing to pay at the top level. And I would say this, Marcia, LSU is one of the prime jobs in all of college football. They've won 3 national titles with 3 different coaches. So that should tell you how good a job it is. And coaches always want to compete at the highest level. And I would say, I would throw this in there as well. We haven't talked about this, but John Sumrall, who's done such a great job at Tulane, is a prime candidate as well for not only potentially the LSU job if Lane Kiffin were to turn it down, but also if Lane Kiffin leaves from Ole Miss, I think he'll be a top candidate at Ole Miss as well as Auburn. He's a Huntsville, Alabama native, going back to the state of Alabama. John Sumrall, next to Lane Kiffin, is the hottest coaching candidate in the country.
So when do you think we're going to know?
I think we'll know on LSU this weekend, coming up after Ole Miss plays Mississippi State. Once they get through that, we expect an announcement, and then the dominoes will fall.
Okay, we'll see what the money amount is going to be too. Okay, thanks a lot, Jeff. Hey, talking about bucks, Louisiana really has some prosperous future in terms of some industry that's coming here.
Yeah, I was trying to think, with this being a Thanksgiving weekend show, like something to be thankful about. I guess we may look back one day and say this is something to be thankful about. Like, if everything happens according to projections, North Louisiana is going to really have a big boom area. There's Meta, the company that is pioneering artificial intelligence, is building. It's a $10 billion artificial intelligence optimized data center. I have no idea exactly what that does, but it sounds very impressive. It also uses a lot of electricity, and Entergy is a real partner in this in terms of ways of generating new electricity and efficient electricity. It also uses a lot of water, and there's a lot of talk going into the whole water development program. So it's a very environmentally conscious program. Governor Landry says this is a new chapter for the state of Louisiana. It will, when it's completed, be like a mile long, just in terms of its operations. And so it's on the way. It's due to be completed like in 2030. So the construction is just beginning. This can really just transform that whole northern end, the northeastern end. I guess Monroe would be the biggest beneficiary of it, but you're close to the Texas border. And it'll change a lot. It'll certainly put a lot of wealth in there. It'll change the politics. And anytime you start bringing a bunch of rich people in the community, I mean, you get different people running for office and everything else like that. But what it reminds me of is on the other side of the northern part of the state is the Haynesville Shale. Remember a few years ago, there was a lot of talk about this town of Haynesville, which is in Claiborne's Parish, and it sits on a huge shale deposit, which goes over into Texas a little bit. And so it's big, and you use that for fracking to develop natural gas. And supposedly the potential is enormous. And so There's talk about huge economic growth in the Haynesville area too. It's happening slowly. I don't know if it's happening as quickly as they thought. And, I was reading some of the forecasts, and people say, well, the economy slowed down a little bit, but we're looking for it to get better. But the combination of Haynesville at one end of North Louisiana and the artificial intelligence plant at the other end, this can be big things, and enough to pay for all the LSU coaches, okay, that we need.
Well, and all the development that will come with all of that. There have been stories that there's a gas station with a deli in it, but there's not fast food. There aren't other convenience stores. There aren't hotels. There aren't all the things that the people coming in to build these things will need. And then the bigger things, doctors' offices. And
Right.
And nearby is the town of Ruston, and it has long been said, and I don't know if it's true, but it's close to being true, that per capita, Ruston has the most millionaires per capita in the state. I think most of it has to do with timber industry. So we see examples of pockets of economic activity throughout North Louisiana. Meanwhile, you have Tensas Parish right on the river, which is the poorest parish in the state. So there's a real mix there of wealth and poverty.
Okay, well, we are certainly hoping for the prosperity for folks who live there, but also for the whole state. It's totally changing that community where it's going. Richland, completely changing that, which some people are happy with and others aren't, but we'll see where it goes. Okay, guys, let's go around the table right now. You.
Yeah, Loyola University is doing something next weekend, December 2nd, called SNEAU, S-N-E-A-U, and it's an event where, kind of like the Sound and Light show that we had recently in the quarter. They're not doing that this year until Loyola is doing it. It has things that students design, so it should be fun.
Very good. Done.
I'm sorry.
keeping with the Loyola theme, we should have talked before the show. It is actually going to snow at Loyola during this event next Tuesday night from 6 to 8. It's the annual snowfall on Loyola's campus. The light show's happening at the same time, but our weather finally got a little bit colder, and we're also going to see some real snow to go play in on the Uptown campus.
Hers is better than mine, so just listen to her.
Robert, over to you.
Mayor-elect Moreno is proposing $150 million in cuts in her proposed 2026 city budget, which includes layoffs and furloughs. So people, and just in order to right-size the budget and avoid any more deficits. So at least for the first part of 2026, people should expect some service cuts.
All right, and let's wrap it up with you, Jeff.
Well, things to be thankful for, the return of horse racing at the fairgrounds, always this time of year. The 154th race meeting at the fairgrounds, third oldest track in America. And there was some concern this summer, if you remember, between the parent company, Churchill Downs, whether they were going to have another racing season. Good to see them back at the Gentile Oval. All
righty. Thanks, guys, for being here. And thank you all for joining us, too. I hope you're having a great Thanksgiving weekend. And we will see you again next week for Informed Sources. Have a good evening.
Informed Sources is made possible in part by Susie and Pierre G. Villery.
We count on Informed Sources to continue the discussion on important local issues.
It's where our top journalists discuss stories they've covered.
Stay informed with Informed Sources.
Support for this program comes from the Gayle and Tom Benson Charitable Foundation, committed to funding educational causes.
This program is brought to you in part by the Eugenie and Joseph Jones Family Foundation, a local foundation proud to support education, the arts, and culture in the greater New Orleans area.